Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Preppers Fireside. And we've almost got a full house. If Hawkins hadn't got a little sniffle and rained off, we'd have had a full house. But we have Brian, Scottish Prepper 73. How are you doing today, Brian?
All good, mate. I'm tired, very tired. But
Well, you know, well, look, a bit of.
was that a bit flat, that one?
Oh,
Are we going to start already? Anyway, Barry, how are you feeling today? Please don't say tired or flat.
very well, thank you, mate. Very well. Better than the day you've had, and better than the day you're going to have if we've got to put up with him. Yeah.
Yes, it's very true. Loads of yous in the chat already. Love to see all them green names, members keeping the channel going. Good, appreciate the support. Elusive Dartmoor straight in there with a $1.99 donation. Super chat, really appreciate it. Hi, I'm Mike. I love Pepsi better than Coke. Yes, you made me read it, but everyone knows it's not true. Look, I've even gone Coke Lemon. Coke Lemon.
That's a cry for help. That's where that is.
66 people in here straight away. Miss Worm is in the house, keeping you all moderated. Hopefully, a couple of our other moderators in there. I think I saw Rift Security in the house, and possibly a couple more we'll add later. Thank you all for being here. I will try and get to your comments through a fireside. It's usually hit and miss. Use block capitals and I might not miss it. If you use a super chat, I definitely won't, because it stars it for me in that system. So with that said, and the disclaimer running across the bottom, let's get on to the subject. Actually, first of all, let's plug some potential upcoming merch. If you want a Scottish Prepper 73 action figure, comes with a pie, Pepsi, anchor power bank, and an MRE, you can contact me and I'll make it happen. And because
Barry's brilliant.
Barry's new to the fireside, but that doesn't stop us making an action figure. He comes with his very own brown coat, Big Bazza.
Outstanding.
And of course, they're the villains, and you need a hero when you've got two villains. So of course, you've got me. I've no idea what AI's done to my face there. I look constipated, but there you go. And
It's took a few pounds off you as well, lying bastard.
Right. I like how they've done. I like how you come in a blister pack for the 3D effect.
Yeah, that's it. And you'll notice the battery bank that comes with Mike says 0% on there. I don't know why it gave me a pie. I never asked it to give me a pie. I think it was just aftermath of Brian's. Anyway, let's get on to more serious things. Let us know if you want to pre-order an action figure. They're only £99.99 each. So the 72-hour warning, gents, has been all over Europe, and it's been official in Europe, but it's obviously not official in the UK. And even the government prepared site doesn't say 72 hours. They say a few days, because they don't want to cover their own backs. However, the tabloids are getting all over it. It's literally, if you do a news search on it, you've got the Express, the Daily Record, Leeds Live, BBC. Everyone's talking about this 72-hour pack. So, Brian, 72-hour prepping pack. That's the first question. Is obvious. Is it enough for a non-prepper to start with?
It's a start. I mean, I'm going to go glass half full. We all know it's not enough. It's never going to be enough. But even if any one of us had 6 months of food in the house, we'd still never be happy. So putting it in perspective, I think if everybody started with 72 hours more than they had normally in their pantry, I'd be delighted.
Yeah. Well, it's like I say, it's a bit of breathing room for everyone else, isn't it? Barry, what do you think? Do you think before you were prepping and stuff like that, would a 72-hour kit be something you'd have considered? Is it a good thing?
I think that the fact that they're actually talking about it is a massive step up. 72 hours, like Brian said, I think I've got to agree. Shocking sound effects. I think it's about the same kind of lines as Brian. It needs to be more. 72 hours is not enough. For somebody starting out, yeah, like Brian says, it's a start.
Yeah. Yeah. And why do you think the government's not stepping up, Barry? Why do you think we're the last one to the post to make an official announcement that people need to start getting ready?
We're always the last to the post, mate, in everything. You should know that. We're always bringing up the rear. The government, I don't think the government really wants to panic anybody. So they kind of drip feed us out little bits and pieces, but now they've got us kind of step up to the plate because everybody else around the world is right. Let's get a 72 pack. You've got like the big yellow leaflet from our North Norwegian friends. Yeah, it's got to be done. It's 72 hours. It's still not enough in my opinion.
No, it's never going to be enough if you've got a prepping mindset, I suppose. Brian, well done for listening to Barry say we're always taking it in the rear and not reacting. I'm proud of you.
I have no comment on that whatsoever.
Change,
I'm expecting it later.
Well, I am. All right.
Is this going back to your earlier comment, is it?
Brian, lots of the prepper channels are doing videos on this now. It's a given when it's a trending topic, obviously. Yeah. A lot of them are centering around food. I feel like that shouldn't be the concentration on this because surely everyone's got 72 hours worth of food, right? Even if you dug to the back of old Granny's cupboard, there'll be some lima beans and a few things that you could use in the space of 3 days.
The problem is it's a just-in-time society. Pre-COVID, most people had 5 days in their pantry. After COVID, financial shocks, everything else, it got worse, down to 3 days. Some people just shop from day to day.
And you think living through that would increase your supplies, right?
You would think so. You'd be bitterly disappointed if you lived in the UK. Somebody had, I think it was the Mirror or the Star, they'd posted on their channel about 72-hour warning. They were jumping on the bandwagon, which is great. And then it was just a torrent of abuse from people. How dare they panic because this is atrocious and Project Fear and all this sort of shit. The government doesn't need to do anything. We do it ourselves. We're doing their work for them. Why would they bother to tell you to prep when people just don't want to do it?
Yeah. Amphia says, don't need a 72-hour kit. We have Larry Lammy, Curly Miliband, Mo Starmer. That'll take care of it. Love it. The Stooges there.
If only.
Yeah, so food side of things, Barry. Is that important? I mean, 72 hours, it's nothing, right? It's a £5 shop if you do it on a budget.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we need a stronger message, right?
Yeah, I'd agree there. I mean, it's all right them saying, 72-hour pack. I mean, like, I know yourself, and I think it was Everyday Prepper did a breakdown of their versions of 72-hour packs. And I kind of had a look at both of those, compared them to mine. And I sort of got a few extras in there as well. But to be honest, it's always better to have just maybe a little bit more than not enough. So maybe throw in an extra meal just in case, because you never know.
Yeah. Brian, do you have anything like this, like a 72-hour bug out bag or something like that? Or is it just a case of, well, I know I've got more than 72 hours here?
Both.
Yeah.
Bug out bag and the 72-hour preparedness kit, I'm taking as two different things, I'm afraid. Nobody mentioned anywhere in this you've got to have a bug out bag. People have jumped on the bag and saying bug out bag. Nobody mentioned you need to have a bug out bag. As we've went through a million times, it's the last resort to go Bear Grylls. Having 72 hours worth of kit is a different kettle of fish. Save the 30 quid in a backpack and buy the 72 hours of supplies. Nobody mentioned bug out bag.
But maybe bug out bag's the wrong words. Surely if you're preparing for all the emergencies that they mention, which is everything but war, you need an evac bag, right? Surely.
Again, though, that's what you and me would term a good idea. That's not what they're subscribing to, and that's not what they're suggesting. Let's keep it simple for Joe Public and build from that. We're playing a game of Lego here. Let's start with the little bricks and see if we can get them interested to go from 72 hours to a week to 2 weeks to a month. That would be the hope.
Yeah.
For me, anyway.
Yeah. And Barry, similar sort of question there. So do you have a 72-hour specific bag, like an evac bag or something? Or is it just the preps you've got around you?
Most of the preps I've got around me, I've got a bag ready with a few items in the bottom of the bag, ready to have everything piled in on top of it. Literally 5-10 minutes, I can be out the door if need be.
Yeah. Barry, do you think it'd be an idea for having things like this in businesses? If the government was going to promote it, it's hard to say homes have to have these things. But if every business had to have a selection of these very simple, basic kits, so if anyone caught at work needs it, do you think that would be a good way to do it?
It would, but on the flip side, they could enforce
it, right? They could
enforce it. I was going to say, on the flip side of that, they wouldn't do it unless they were forced to do it because it's extra cost. And where they're going to find the funds from?
Yeah, but they've got to follow fire regulations. They've got to do all of that. So surely it's just another emergency procedure regulation they should have to do.
True. In my current employment, on site at any one time, there's at least 450 people.
Yeah.
So that's 450 kits, potentially, you would have to keep established on site. Then
There's
you've
got a lot of storage with that, I suppose.
You've got the storage. Then you've got who's going to keep an eye on the rotation dates and everything of anything that's kept in there.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big ask, which is why I think they're sort of pumping it out to Joe Public that you've got to have it yourself.
Yeah. There's no way of enforcing that, though, is there, Brian? Like onto Joe Public, there's no way they could do that and enforce it. Do you think businesses could be targeted for this in any way?
Businesses could help, and businesses could be involved with the government stage, and it could be enforced, though. They enforce it in other countries. Why can't we do it? They enforce it in Spain. They enforce it in Finland. Every public building's got to have supplies. You've got to have supplies. We could do it. There's got to be a willingness to do it. People would have to be made to do it in the UK, kicking and screaming, but it could be done. It's an act of discipline. It could be done.
Would it be done, is the question, though?
No, it won't be done. It won't be done. This will be another blip in the prepping pathway, and it'll be yesterday's news by next week, sadly.
Yeah. You watch the Prepper podcast, band again. Watch the Prepper podcast. That's as much insight as you can have.
Gynecologist for rhinos.
There goes the monetization. There goes. Would you know?
What's wrong with saying that?
I don't know. It's just some animal rights people will be after you somewhere. Let's go to the comments quickly before I lose track of them as usual. Yorkshire put, I've got about 2 months worth of grub, probably more. If I go full on rationed portions, definitely a good start there. Grass Monster said, I think the people who don't have a car probably have more in than drivers because they can't pop into the supermarket every day or on the way home from nice meal. I think that's a good point. I know when I wasn't driving, because you'd use taxis and stuff, you'd just get a weekly shop at least, if not more. So yeah, it could be driving. Is it just driving, Brian, or it's apps, right, that's made us lazy and like this and expect everything overnight?
We're a service country. We have no heavy industry. We're comfortable. We're used to things being delivered. We're used to things being taken care of for us, and our skill sets have been diluted slightly. So I don't know how we get them back. We're talking about it. We're trying.
Yeah. Barry, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because it's a generational thing that's only just come about. Because, like, I'm sure ourselves, our parents, our grandparents all always had full cupboards and pantries. And even like my parents went through really hard times. They still had flour and baking stuff and things like that you could make cheap meals with. How's it got so bad that it's not just a young generation that's doing this, that it's rubbed off on the older generation that used to stock it?
That's a good question. I mean, as you say, like our grandparents, except everybody, they had full pantries, as you say. And then I think as technologies advanced, as Brian has said, we become complacent. We know that we, a few touch of a buttons, we can have food at the door. We haven't even got to get out of our chair and cook it, warm it up, anything like that. And it's just so much easier. I mean, I used to know people who were in bed sits who hadn't got any food in the house whatsoever. Literally everything that they ate came delivered through the door.
Yeah. I know people the same that literally pop into a local Asda every single day on the way home from work, and they literally get tonight's meal.
Yeah,
it's yeah. Brian,
think about it though, Mike. I was going to say something there. Sorry, that days gone by, people having a bad day was when their lights went out and they had no power, they had no running water, and they were cooking over an open fire on a hearth for a couple of days, and they coped. They did it. They had the skills. They had the supplies. These days, it's a catastrophe if your teenagers have got no Wi-Fi for 30 seconds. Things are not the same.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've got a different idea of what a disaster is, right? A disaster in the 60s and 70s was your old man's on strike for 3 weeks and strike pay with no money coming in the house. And you're going to school with sewed patches on jumpers and shit. Nowadays, it's if you've got last year's model of iPhone. It's not the same.
That's if you've got last week's.
But again, that feels like it should affect the generation coming in a lot more. If you've grown up in them times as a youngster, how have you then resorted to this day by day?
Because my kids are ruined, and that's my fault. And that makes me. But it does though, and I'll take the hit on that. They've never known adversity or hardship, so
yeah,
that's my fault for bringing 3 kids into the world that couldn't hammer a straight nail in a wall.
Even with the best efforts, it can still happen. So don't blame yourself. Don't blame yourself. I blame you, Brian, but you don't blame yourself. The White Adder says, "Hi everyone. Wouldn't it be more useful to call it 3 days instead of 72 hours? Wouldn't it be more helpful for new preppers?" Barry, do you think that's a headline grabber? 72 hours sounds better in the papers.
I think it sounds a little bit more dramatic, basically, because you look at some of the disaster movies that have been on the telly, 48 hours and stuff like that. I think that's somebody sitting in a think tank somewhere has gone, let's call it this instead of calling it that.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same rel, does it? Nick Nolan in 2 days.
That sounds like he's waiting for a taxi.
Yes. Yeah, Brian, on anything on that, the 72 hours thing, is it, do you think it's just like for dramaticizing it? And if it is, I get why it would be for tabloids, but then why would the EU put it in the same terms? Why would they not say just 3 days or a few days like our government's put on the prep site?
I was just about to say that. They originally had 3 days, 72 hours, and then they removed that a few days after it. Because we were speaking about that last March when we did the first 72-hour videos. Yeah. So they want to be seen to doing something, but just the bare minimum. So if something does go wrong, they'll pull out this tiny footnote from history and go, well, this junior minister was on Breakfast TV once 3 years ago and told you about it. You were warned.
Yeah.
It should be a national campaign, but it gets lost in amongst people losing 20% of their shares and their pension with things going on in America, China, Ukraine. So it's lost. It's lost. But it's part of the problem, but it's lost.
Yeah. I like Taffy Nigel's version of it, the let's all go camping bag. That's a good terminology for it. I like that. We have a 1 of 5 a day, so why shouldn't they do 1 of 3 days storage as like I suppose like a slogan thing to get the message out there. That requires marketing geniuses, so obviously they can't afford that. Brian, food wise, how much could people expect to put away for this 72-hour bag? Like if they were just preparing 72 hours, what kind of quantities are they looking at? Is it, in monetary terms, as it were?
You can do it really cheaply or really expensively. When I did the video last year, I showed people what it looked like in terms of tins, and I called it 2,000 calories. Now, obviously, we all know the bigger the person, the more the activity levels, winter, summertime, always got a burn. But 2,000 calories is a reasonable benchmark. And it lets you see in terms of tins what it looks like, MREs, or pasta, flour, that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You could easily do it for between 10 and 20 pounds per person. Easily.
Yeah.
There's no... Now, for you and me, that isn't going to be a major problem. For most of us, it's probably not going to be a major problem. Some people, it might be a major problem, but then I get slightly hacked off because you'll see some people moaning, I can't afford that, as they're smoking their lungs off, right?
Yeah.
But if you can afford that just in time food and a £25 takeaway that night, I get you a week shopping.
But priorities, I mean, they've got to go down the pub and get pissed that night and then smoke 40 fags and then turn Sky Telly on and use their latest mobile. It's not on their radar. It's not a priority. Because somebody else will fix it, won't they?
Yeah. A few people in the chat, Barry, are saying a lot of people would already have 72 hours worth of food. I mean, I think that's quite fair to say.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people would have 30 days, 90 days, etc. of food, but to have 3 days worth of food, I'm not saying perfectly balanced meals, but you know, them Victoria finger sponges that were supposed to go in a trifle last 2 weeks ago that are still in there, that's something you can eat. Them tin of beans that, always come in a 4-pack and you only eat one a month. There'll be stuff there. But a good point by Robert is a lot, however, water and cooking equipment would be an issue.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yes.
So the water would carry on for a short period if the power went out, right?
Yeah.
So you've got time to fill up containers, fill up baths, stuff like that. So that's what I'd say to everyone. Even if you're fully prepared, even if you have water stockpiles, get that last little bit. It could make the difference. But 72 hours of water, Barry, what does that look like?
72 hours of water for me. I'd have a 5-gallon container for each person for a day. I've got those containers ready, just got to fill them up. Simple as that. But I mean, as Everyday Prepper said on one of his videos recently, the small bottles of water that are about 6 to 8 inches tall, you can actually get by with one of those a day at a push for a few days. So I'd go.
Go on, Brian.
Go on, lay into me.
It's not. No, I'm not. I'm not poking at you. No. The minimum for anybody prepping should be a gallon a day per person for basic cleansing with submarine showers with a washcloth, and most people are going to need between 2 to 3 litres a day anyway. A 750 milliliter bottle isn't going to cut it. And in my humble opinion, no offense to Steve, he's a good guy, but I'm calling bullshit on that.
I didn't actually say anything about washing.
Right.
This is just for drinking.
Hang on. No, Brian, I'm going to call bullshit on your calling bullshit.
Go for it. Right. Go for it.
The fact is, right, if we're talking about being prepared, yes, that's the ideal. I'll fully agree with you, right? If we're talking about 72 hours worth of survival, you need this much water. Body needs. You can go 3 days. The average person can go 3 days. This depends on environment, condition, current health. Yeah, how much Pepsi's in your bloody system, because you'll need to flush that crap out. Sorry, you prompted me. But 3 days you could go, right? So it's like when people were saying like the get home bags and stuff. I said, I'm not going to carry 4 liters, 5 liters, 6 liters of water. It's just not practical. When we talk about survival, any water is a bonus. And I think if you had 500 milliliters a day for 3 days, you would survive quite sufficiently, because you've also got moisture in other foods and stuff like that. But it depends where you are, time of year, weather, heat, all these conditions. But survival-wise, you don't need any.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about 72 hours worth of emergency supplies that you should keep, right?
But it's not an emergency to wash my bits. I can stink for 72 hours.
Yeah, you could stink for 72 hours, but personal hygiene and everything else, dysentery or cholera could take you down pretty quickly if you don't even wash your hands. What you would need to get by with a backpack and a tent when shit hits the fan and you're bugging out or you're using a life straw, I'm kind of going back to what the premise was. 72 hours of supplies you should keep. Nobody ever mentioned a bug out bag in this.
Yeah.
And any of the government advice. So that my premise is coming from it from the point of view of that you should have enough essentials. We're not talking about survival. We're talking about supplies. And I think if you're talking in terms of supplies, it should be a gallon. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about to sustain life. That's not the question. The premise is 72 hours of supplies. So 72 hours of reasonable supplies would be a minimum of a gallon, in my opinion. Rightly or wrongly, that's what I'm sticking to.
I suppose it's how you read into it, right? Because if you see the word 72-hour emergency supplies, my thought goes immediately to what do I need to survive? So literally 3 meals and literally whatever water I need, like the little bit of water I need. Or you could read that as 72 hours to live exactly like I am now, with good substantial meals and no problems and plenty of snacks. So Barry, how would you say, because non-preppers is what this is going out to, right? It's non-preppers that they're trying to get these supplies in. How do you think they're going to read that? They're going to read that as survival, or like Brian says, like plentiful?
You've got to read the wording, definitely, because it's like everybody's going to interpret it in their own manner. If it was more specific, if it stated 3 liters of water per person per day, there's clear instruction. If they just say, make sure you've got enough water to last you for so many days, well, as you've said, some people will survive on minimal water. Other people, like Brian has said, will use more water. So
I genuinely don't think there's a cost involved in this for new preppers, though, because I think with the water supply still being on, you should be able to fill enough containers to have that kind of water. Obviously, watch what containers you're using. Don't drink out the bath unless it's completely bleached and cleaned. You can get bath liners, stuff like that. But just pans, pots, cups, jars, whatever you've got. Excuse me.
Again, getting back to what I was saying about a gallon, not to labour the point. If you,
I will be right.
However,
Brian says.
No, not at all. I'm just trying to explain my position on it. That
you explain. You can explain uninterrupted. Carry on.
From a SHTF survival situation, when your back's against the wall, cunt. Did I say that out loud? Sorry. You've put me right off my stroke there.
Go on, carry on.
So, if you're considering the premise of 72 hours worth of supplies, a gallon, in my opinion, would be a good starting point. Now, if you start off with 750 millilitres or even half a litre or whatever you're talking about, that gives you no wiggle room after the 72 hours. If you're starting with the minimum of a gallon for washing food and cooking, incidentally, right, then it gives you wiggle room should the 72-hour situation stretch about a day or two. you could eke out those supplies. But if you're starting from the bare bollocks minimum, your wiggle room's gone. So from a prepper point of view, my personal opinion, rightly or wrongly, would need to be a default position of at least a gallon per person per day, purely for the wiggle room and all other pish that I'm ranting away with before you put me off.
Barry, what else though? Because I mean, food and water is the easy one, right? It's sustaining life, and I think that's generally what you need. And you could technically stock food that you could just open the tin and eat cold and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, a cooker would obviously, a way to warm the food would be number one. But what else should people think about in these 72-hour kits? From a non-prepper perspective, yeah.
At least a blanket or two.
Yeah.
Because there's no mention in this 72-hour kit as to whether anybody's actually going to have any heat.
Mm-hmm.
A power bank as well. A fully charged power bank, I must add.
Meow.
So, yeah, that I would add those two in at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does Brian come with voodoo pins?
I can supply them. It's not a problem. Yeah, Brian, what else inside these kits should people be thinking about?
Radio.
Wind up radio. Yeah.
You need to know what's going on out there in the big bad world. So wind up radio.
Yeah.
If we're keeping it simple, and some means of cooking, blankets, like you say, and some form of illumination, be it candles, whatever, torch, little power bank, like you say.
Anarchy makes a point of having cash on hand will be vitally important. I'll come back to this. We'll go to the chat because there's just one or two comments. Guys, I am missing loads of comments because I'm trying to stay in the conversation. So try and use the capitals or the super chat if you can. Really appreciate it. Snapdragon said we should start with kids in school. Ask them to do a project on it. Now, I'm 50-50 with this. Is this going to scare kids? Are they going to ask why? What do you both... I mean, you're both nodding there. Do you both think it's a good idea to get them early?
Yeah, absolutely. Make a game out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Make a game out of it and kids will enjoy it. It's as simple as that. And then as soon as you've got them enjoying it, they're not going to be afraid of it. And then when it does happen for real, they're going to think, oh, it's a game. Great.
Do you know what? That's the nail on the head there, Snapdragon, because schools, anyone who's got kids in school will know, constantly saying, go home and your parents have to bring in, I don't know, 2 Easter eggs, or you've got to make this outfit for this thing. You've got to make this cape for this thing or whatever. They all constantly ask you to do something. Now, if the project was to go home and make a 72-hour emergency bag and bring it into school to show, then take it back home again, they've got that bag, right?
Yep.
That's actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
I like it. Brian, what have you done?
Nothing.
It's a gallon a day. There we go. All right. Well, is that an imperial gallon? No.
That's a Pepsi gallon.
So, yeah, well, I've got back to the chat because the super chat, he knows when he puts a super chat in, it knocks all the rest to the bottom. Thanks, Brian. Really appreciate it.
It never does.
Taffy Nice says, come on, boys. 3 days is complete. Cojones. End of. I tend to agree with him.
Yeah.
Surely the government know this. So why would they want to recommend 72 hours? Is it purely for small incidents, Brian, or is it to give themselves some wiggle room, breathing room to get martial law in place or to get themselves to bunkers? What do we think?
I think it's even simpler than that. It's so they don't get asked any awkward questions. If you were to tell somebody 72 hours, it could be a burst water main or a minor power cut or disruption.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell somebody you've got to keep a month's worth of food, right? Holy shit, what's happened that we've no foods for a month in the shops? You didn't even have that during COVID.
Yeah.
Right? So automatically they're going to get asked questions that they don't want to answer and probably don't have any answers anyway. So I think it's simple like that.
But have they not, Barry, have they not pre-answered them questions? Because most of the articles I'm reading are saying, due to Vladimir Putin's threats on our power grid and stuff like that. So is that fear not already there, and they should just say you need a couple of weeks?
They've basically said the same as other countries, so that if they go above and say you need a week's worth, other countries are going to go, oh, you're being too extreme. If you go below that, you'll have other people saying, oh, you're not doing enough. Everybody else is prepping for 3 days. So it's like you said, they're allowing themselves some wiggle room by slotting straight in the middle with everything that they've come out with so far. And then they can turn around at the end of the day and say, 72 hours is what everybody else was doing. We just went along for the ride.
But they're not along for the ride, are they, Brian? Why are we dragging our feet?
We have got no civil resilience at all. None. Zip. Nada. We've got none from the government. We've got no guidance. And worse than that, Joe Public has got no aspiration to get any. I'm sorry to be so negative. That's just how I see it.
Paul says if they told everyone 3 months worth of food, the shops would be empty for weeks. Yeah, I get that. It depends how they put that across, though, right? Is money going to be an issue? Sorry, is money going to be an issue here? Because if they tell everybody they need, let's pull out 2 weeks, all right? Reasonable time for a power cut. Looking at things like Storm Dara, looking at things like the Heathrow thing, right? Some of them were out for like a week. So if you've got 2 weeks, it's a reasonable amount for something like that. So if they said that and they based it on look at these two things that happened, everyone doing a weekly shop used to be just a normal thing. But are they going to have to foot the bill for everyone claiming benefits or things like that, or people who are unable to work? I'm not saying it's their fault, but are they going to say, well, we can't afford to get an extra week? Brian.
All right, okay.
I said Brian at the start.
I didn't hear you say that at the start. Sorry, buddy. I think you'll always have lots of reasons why people can't do it. Whether it's finances or whatever else. I don't know why we don't just say, right, look, Morrison's, Asda, whatever, get together all your value range, whatever it is, still decent food, do us a good price, make a box that says 72 hours a week, or a couple of weeks, whatever it is, and we'll make you a point of contact for Joe Public, and you subsidise it and we'll give you the business. Surely that could be done with a phone call. This doesn't seem to be a big thing to fix.
No. I think everyone's of the same sort of consensus that it's going to cause extreme panic if they do more than 72 hours.
Yeah.
But, I mean, look at the publicity they gave the prep site last time, the Prepare Gov site. What was it? A 10-minute slot on morning television once?
Yeah.
It was worthless.
How many people panicked for that? I mean, even if they did say a week, how many people would see it, Barry? You think they'd get the message across, or would people still just bury their head in the sand like we do?
Exactly that. I think they just bury their heads. I think if they want to inform the public in at least a decent manner, pump it out like they do the political broadcasts every now and again. At a few prime slots, like just before the news or just after the news. Doesn't have to be a massive thing. Just a reminder to the public, get yourself your 72-hour bag together.
Yeah. So, go on,
sorry,
Brian.
mate, on you go. I was going to say, building on something Barry said, the school thing stuck in my mind. When I was at school a long, long time ago, primary school, you would turn up and you would get a toothbrush or a whatever campaign they were doing, toothpaste to take home, right? Why don't we give the kids, here you go, here's your very own, let's call it, I'm loath to say bug out bag, but your 72-hour pack to take it home and show their parents, look at what we got in school, right? Give them one. We give people free school dinners, give them a bloody bag, right? But see, while they're doing that, at the same time, why don't you teach them how to dial 999, how to help one another, right? Rather than there's 40 fucking genders, excuse the language. It'll give them life skills rather than absolute bollocks. We don't
Yeah.
need to do sex education at 7-year-old. Why don't you teach them how to dial 999, how to look after their siblings, a 72-hour bug out bag, that kind of stuff?
They did that when I was at school. We went to this whole thing at the local college, and it was about what to do in the fire and get out, stay out, and all that lot. And that seems to have gone on the way by. None of my kids have done it since.
Yeah,
They've no time there. How can they possibly have time to do anything like first aid or anything worthwhile when they're too busy running about identifying as a teapot or some bollocks?
But they are discussing things like the news and the war in primary schools, because my kids have asked me questions about it, and it's because of discussions in school. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
It is, and I don't know exactly what they're saying. So I might be a not very nice character when it comes to the next parent evening to try and get some information out of them. I have to do a secret filming. But how important is going to be training alongside these kits, Barry, do you think? Because 72 hours worth of medical kit, 72 hours worth of food, etc., blah, blah, blah. How can it just come with a pamphlet, or is there going to have to be an educational aspect to this?
Ideally, I'd say yes, it needs an educational aspect. Even if it's sort of one lesson a week in school on a particular subject, i.e., right, this week, you're going to do first aid. Next week, you're going to do basic cooking. Week after that, basic repair skills.
Yeah.
I know they used to do stuff like that at one time, at least when I was at school, they did.
There's always home economics and woodwork and stuff like that. Whatever.
That's it. Yeah. But make it more sort of focused towards these 72-hour bags.
Yeah.
They haven't got to keep it forever, hopefully, but give everybody at least some sort of basic training.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Same for workplaces, Brian, do you think they should offer more first aid courses? Like that? Because I've been telling people to look into the workplaces, and funnily enough, I looked into my own, and they don't. They just don't offer it. They just find who's already a first aider, and they just, let them crack on. They don't offer everyone training. So is it something workplaces need to step up for as well, this educational side of it?
Yep, 100%. I think everybody should know first aid.
Yeah.
Everybody. Not just a couple, everybody. Because what if the first aider's the guy who's bleeding out on the workshop floor?
Yeah.
But you're not allowed to do first aid now, because if you do it wrong, you get sued, right?
That's right. The last first aid course I did doing wind turbines, the guy was doing it was a decent first aid course. Then he says, right now, this is his words. Now we've got all that bollocks out the way, I'm going to tell you how it is. If you see somebody lying on the ground, phone an ambulance and hold their hand. Don't touch them, because the Good Samaritan's getting sued right, left and centre.
Wow. I don't think I could. I think I'd have to. I'd have to risk being sued. It's just, the way it is. In the chat, they should know how much water they use each day, then tell them to triple it, says Paul Thomas. Kelly says radios get the XH data D328. It's about a tenner, as it's USB rechargeable. It takes a micro SD for music and has AM, FM, and 9 shortwave bands. There you go. A recommendation there. Thank you for that. Followed by, so basically the war will be over in 3 days. I, for one, welcome our new Russian leadership. You shock me, Kelly. You shock me.
I'm not shocked with Comrade Kelly at all.
Any comment by the government saying 3 months is needed? The internet would ramp that up to hyper panic stations within a few days. True. But, I mean, tabloids will be tabloids. They'll do that with the 72 hours. Taffy Nye says, batteries, a tent in a room, camping stove with gas cans, candles, CO2 monitor, etc. Why isn't any political party explaining this? Yeah, any political party explaining this? Of course, we're jolly old Brits, except me. I'm a Taffy. Thing.
Sheep romancer, was that?
Yeah.
Nah, he's not.
You're a bad man.
No, but I mean, it's good advice on what to do. But I mean, yeah, we no one's stepping up to say it. On average, the UK, there's a disaster, you're looking at 7 to 10 days before you're allowed back in your home. That's pretty crazy, right? If you're telling people 72 hours, and well, I suppose that's evacuation again.
Yeah.
But this is where we push the 72-hour crap aside, and we go on to what you should have, right? So for a disaster, bag-wise, Brian, what's your kind of setup for like an evac bag? Does it include things like shelter, or is it about getting to another location? Does it have the food, or is it about scavenging, etc.? What's your kind of feelings on that? Because you've had wildfires down the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
for a summer bag, it'll have wet meals. So British 24-hour wet packs, but broken down, all the pish taken out of them. Basically the meal pouches, yeah, same, yeah. But it'll be eaten cold.
Mm-hmm.
So try and keep the pack weight light. The anticipation is it'll be either in a camper van or in a car. There's a life straw in each of the bags. There's a med kit in each of the bags, and there's a couple of the foil blankets in each of them as well. Summer bags, because wintertime and summertime, I basically change a lot of the stuff. I put more calorie content in it. The bag's heavier, and a decent thick sleeping bag. In the wintertime, around about September, October, I'll change it. Wind up radio, walkie-talkies, glow sticks, rechargeable torch, that kind of the usual basic shit.
Do you go for shelter in case you have to camp out? If that's there's
a basha on each of the packs. So the poncho bashas, there's one of them in a lightweight bag. That side sits in the side pockets.
Yeah. Barry, do you have a setup for this kind of scenario if you have to evacuate or get out?
Well, I'm primarily bug in, so
I think most of us are in general. But if it's if it's a spreading fire coming down the block and it's unavoidable, it's an LA kind of scenario. Have you got something there to grab and go?
Give me 10 minutes and I'll have a bag packed. Simple as. I can just pick straight off the shelves what I need, shove it in a bag, and I'm gone out the door.
Yeah. So nothing really pre-set up, or nothing really as a loadout. Would you be looking at taking shelter with you in that scenario, or would you just be looking to find shelter?
I've got a couple of the ponchos that can be fashioned into shelters if need be. A couple of survival blankets, foil blankets as well. Also some of the the pocket hand warmers. They're actually quite good, but I've got access to some quite large versions of those. So
they're great for your winter packs because you throw one at the bottom of your sleeping bag. Oh, makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, and then bags you've got, Vintage Englishman said, how many people would be fit enough to walk anywhere in an emergency? I mean, winter, Brian, you're talking about a heavier bag in winter, but you're also could be encumbered by snow and stuff like that. Is it going to be practical to get out for you with that?
No, you'd be dead. I always go with we've done this chat a million times about bug out and bug in, and my answer will never change. If you're bugging out with a pack on, I'm not physically fit anymore. My knees are shot. I don't train. I'd probably be a liability. I'd be lucky to walk a couple of miles with a heavy pack on in the snow, and I'd be blown out my arse, and I'd probably be a goner. So you've got to be realistic about your limitations and what you can do and can't do. And that's why I tend to promote bugging, because for most of us, it's going to be your safer option.
Yeah. But if bugging's not an option, Barry, fitness comes into it then, the scary word that preppers don't like to hear. So, I mean, keeping yourself able and practicing with them bags has got to be key, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, I suffer with a reoccurring back injury, which decides to rear its ugly head every now and again. But the flip side of that is most of the jobs that I've ever had through my adult life, I've always been on my feet, walking around all the time. So for me, throwing a pack on and walking any great distance is not a great hardship. However, for my other half, she is doing her best to get fitter during the current climate of events around the world. She's getting there. So obviously I'd have to sort of go at her pace, etc. So
And have you took any sort of contingencies? Have you thought about any contingencies that, like cycle or like a trailer or something like that could help in that way?
We've got a wheelbarrow. Simple as, we've got a wheelbarrow. Between the two of us, we can load it up and drag that along. And if we need to ditch it, do you know what? We'll tip it over and ditch it, and then we'll just take what we need.
I didn't know if you meant for kit or taking turns, who's pushing and who's riding in the wheel.
She wouldn't be able to move me.
Let's go to the comments. There's loads of comments, guys. Again, sorry if I miss any. Great Gala says, would the shops want to do a pre-made one with so many different diet needs? People would be mourning they'd be being left with the vegan gluten-free bike. Yeah, they would be. The thing is, right, so I've looked at this, and you can get pre-made ones, right, on Amazon. And they want like £200 and odd for them.
Yeah, stupid prices.
And it comes with the crappy 7 Cs. Here's a block of tasteless cardboard that'll keep you alive for 7 days or for 72 hours, sort of thing. What do you not think it would have been wise for somebody to jump on this, Brian? Like Tesco, Asda, something like that. Create something like this. Why has nobody jumped on this? It's got to be cost effective, right?
It is, but it's too tinfoil hat for them. Plus, it's a fad purchase. I'll guarantee you, if it became mainstream news, all the bags that were being sold, they'd all be sold out. People with 5 people in their family would buy 10 bags just in case they have a spare, and there would be feck all left in the shops. See, 2 weeks later, the same 10 bags would be Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
yeah, that's the problem, right? It's same with like blackouts and that, and same with obviously PPE that flooded all the marketplaces at one point. Chris82 says, lads, on the school thing, what about an after school club? That's just scouts in it, Barry.
Not far off, I suppose, if you want to look at it like that. Trouble is, I mean, there's some kids that just don't want to be going to after school clubs. You know, it's hard enough to get them into the school, let alone go to an after school club. Yeah.
Do you think you'd have pushback on the parents, Barry? Like there'll be parents who say, I don't want my kids knowing this.
That's a tough one. It depends how sensible the parents are. And unfortunately, it depends how sensible the
parents are. I honestly think there'd be a lot of pushback. There's some very interesting parents when you do the school runs. First aid should be made mandatory requirement for any worker who asks to do it, says Kelly. I fully agree. Unfortunately,
it's mandatory at our place.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems to be gone of the way by at my place. So that is what the scouting movement is so good. Skills like fire starting, cooking, and camping, etc. It is, but it's also something that's disappearing. Unfortunately, there's less and less kids doing it, and they've cut all funding for like army cadets recently. So that's out the window. Yeah, just it's volunteers and stuff and donations keeping it alive now. So
that's a disgrace.
Yeah. Evil Girl says, my son wants to help me make a couple of raised beds, and he has a chance because I'm using old bunk beds and they're the perfect size. I like that. Yeah. There you go. Kids involved. It's always a good thing. I thought the Good Samaritan Act covered people, says Rift Security. How can we, as a community, Brian, help this more than talking now? Because we've got 150 people in here. Hopefully, a small percentage of them are new to the channel or new to prepping or have just clicked on it for the sake of it. But a lot of them are already preppers. So they think 72 hours, idiots. How can we, as a community, get the message out to more people?
You're already doing it. And it's happening it's circumstance driven. So you've done a few interviews now. Lee in the Bug Out Shop's done a couple.
Mm-hmm.
They get traction when it's a catchy headline. So at the moment, it's in the media. So like say yourself, a couple of other guys are getting some airtime. That's great. Hopefully that will continue. And the interviews that you did and Lee and that were really, really good. And in fairness to the people doing the interviews, they didn't try and make it look something it wasn't, like tinfoil hat wearing maniacs. So it seemed to me it was being promoted in the right way. And I think you got a fair crack at the whip on the interviews. I think it was fair.
Yeah. But I mean, Barry, I was speaking to Lee about this, and he says it comes round every so often, like a year or 2 years. They all come knocking. They all want interviews. There's little segments everywhere, and then it's all forgotten again. Is there anything we can do as a community on the whole that's bigger? I'm not talking about just like the bits I'm doing or we as YouTubers are doing, but preppers in general. How can we make it more acceptable? It's a really, honestly, I genuinely want to know, because it's a battle I'm struggling with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, push it out on whatever social media channels you've got, definitely, because that's where you're going to find a lot of today's kids are. They're on social media. And every now and again, the algorithms will just pop something in front of somebody. And you know what? If it catches one person's eye and they go, interesting, and watches a bit more, that's one person saved. Again, with the social media as well, advertise the fact that, you know, we've got shows, events up and down the country. Encourage people to either attend or at least take notice of them. And, you know, then you get people reading the comments, and then they see other people and think, oh, okay, yeah, you know, this might be worth looking at.
Yeah. I was telling people on Shadow Scout Swedes live that I was part of yesterday that the last interview I did, the producer who you speak to before and after the show, at the end said that in doing the research for the show and watching videos on my channel and other channels, she's now prepping.
Yeah,
which I thought was brilliant. But I mean, she would never have even seen that, because I think the algorithm is against us in that way. If you only ever watch fluffy cat videos, you only ever get shown fluffy cat videos. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's something that needs doing more. There's a lot of pushback though, Brian, as we've seen personally, like on our channels and stuff like that, and emails and what have you, from preppers, because they misquote OPSEC all the time. What's your thoughts on that?
Answered, if you get a lot more shit, you've got a lot more subs, so you're going to get a lot more shit. I'm not as active.
Subscribe
so
and give me shit.
I'll be blunter than that. Don't bother giving me any shit, because I'm not really going to take it. I'll just block you. So I do this to help and for fun. And I know you'll try and talk to people. I'm not interested. I'll just block them. The OPSEC one, like I tried to answer on one of the Facebook groups. The assertion is that because you're on YouTube, because you're talking, or like say you were doing interviews, then marauding hordes are all going to automatically know where you live, and they're going to knock on your door, and you're going to be murdered, and all your kit's going to be taken. Okay. That assumes that more than the people in your street know who you are, which in the society we live in, most people don't know their next door neighbour. Let's be honest.
True.
That's the community spirit. It's broken. So, and then you get into the fact that you're in a town. So, oh yeah, that guy from YouTube lives in this town of 50,000 people. I'm just going to go and knock on all these doors and take his shit. It's not realistic, right? It's just not.
Don't have a van outside saying the prepper wagon.
Yeah, you've got a blimp above the house with a string on it saying, "Come to Crazy Mike's and help yourself his emporium of crap." It's nonsense. I do understand their thoughts and fears, and that to an extent they've got a point. But you've thought about the risks, and I've thought about the risks, and I'm quite comfortable with the risks. Right? I don't mean that to sound blasé, but I'm quite happy with my own security measures, and I don't see it as being going to be an issue. I think it's important enough that we should do the channels that, and we've been over this a million times. For every person that becomes a prepper, is one less threat to you and me. It's that simple.
One less person to save as well. Barry, I'm curious of your input on this kind of thing, because you're in the process, right? You're new to YouTube. You've done the podcast. You've come on here to join us on here, but you're also looking at doing your own channel as well, which is set up, just waiting for some content. So make sure you go and subscribe for when he does his first video. But have you gone through this debate with yourself, this dilemma? Have you seen what me and Brian have spoke about in the past and thought about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if anybody comes knocking on our front door, they'll be in for a shock, because there's not a great deal here. Everything else is off-site. You know, I've got what I need here for any kind of emergency that I can deal with. They'll cover me for a week.
Yeah.
Everything else, it's off-site. And you know, where I am is pretty secure as it is. So you know, I think, to be honest, I think the risks outweigh the reward.
The reward outweighs the risk. Do you mean?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I'm tired.
He says that as he leaves. The risks outweigh. I'm gone. If you want another sensible, level-headed prepper and not a tinfoil hat nutter, Viking Mitch is in the house and he has a channel. So make sure you go and check him out, especially if you like military kit and modifying your own kit and stuff like that. Really good at stuff like that. Good insight. So make sure you go and check out Viking Mitch's channel as well. He's part of the prepping community that's trying to make a difference with meats across the UK.
It's probably worth mentioning that we are not the great sages of the prepper community and have never claimed to be. I get shit wrong on a daily basis, but it's not that I'm intentionally giving duff info. It's well-intentioned. If I make a mistake, I'm human. So's Mike. So's Barry. It's well-intentioned.
Yep.
Yeah,
it is, and that's all we can do. And we just take it into a fact that everyone you watch on YouTube has had this conversation with themselves about OPSEC, so they don't need your added advice. But it is about getting the message across to more people, and I do think the government should step up and actually make a physical announcement. You look at a little map of Europe of what everyone's done, and we're the only one without any sort of leaflet or anything like that. We talked about delivery briefly. I'll make it short. Any questions you want to put to anyone on the panel, please get them in now, because we won't be on here too much longer. We talked about social media and stuff. That's the way you reach younger people and things like that. Brian, would a leaflet work? Would it go straight in the junk mail? Would a pamphlet work? Is it a good idea? A lot of European countries seem to think it is. But are we going to get too many tree-hugging hippies saying we've wasted paper?
I think the society we live in, the social media or variant thereof, is going to be the best way to get traction. But it should be on TikTok campaigns, Facebook ads, things that people are actually going to look at. Most of the mail I get in the door goes straight in the bin, mate. I don't even look at it. It's all shite. And I don't think I'm greatly different from 99% of other people in that regard. But make it interactive, make it relevant. Something I've got to click on. What would you do in this situation? Oh, well, I'd burn to death and I'd be horribly maimed. No. What would you do for your children? How would you survive for 72 hours, right? Oh, that's no. Have you considered getting this? And here's some helpful guides of where you can get it. And here's some sample tins and food that we've got as an idea. Point and click, make it interactive, make it relevant.
Yeah. Barry, there must be something in the leaflets though, right? Because every single European country thinks making this pamphlet has been worth the time and effort. So is there something to be done for it, or is it just a waste?
You could send it out to every household in the country, and you'd probably end up with about 80% of it going straight in the bin, like Brian said. I know that when our post comes on a Wednesday, I know that that's junk mail day, and everything I don't even get looked at, straight in the bin.
But would publicising it in that way, saying this pamphlet is going out to everyone in the country, make you look out for it?
Yeah, that would make a difference. I mean, make it bright yellow or something like that, or bright orange or whatever, like our other friends in other countries have done. Make it so that you can't miss it when it comes through your door. You know, and like I say, pump out a media campaign saying, right, all through March, you should be getting this come through your door. This is what it looks like. You know, make people aware of what they've got to look for and what they're going to get through the door. Might save a few more lives.
Yeah. So maybe if they do a leaflet, they just need a campaign to follow it, right? I mean, they do enough campaigns for stopping us smoking, you know, and stuff like that. Yeah, before. They'll find a way to tax the leaflet anyway, then they'll make some money on it.
If we've got money to do COVID jabbing centres and testing centres within a couple of months, we've got money to give bug out bags to the population and make sure that they keep them.
£22 billion black hole, Brian. £22 billion black hole. Can't do it.
Let's make it 24 then and do it properly.
What's a bit more of a hole? It's fine.
Yeah, I agree with Brian perfectly. Yeah. Well, if we need to do it, we'll find the money for it from somewhere.
Well, I mean, yeah, we find the money for everything else, and we're still giving aid to other countries as well. So, yeah, I fully agree with you.
That's it. Yeah, take a slice out of that.
It's been a long time, and I know this verges on naughty YouTube, but it's been a long time since any government in this country has put this country first, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And that's just my personal opinion. It's not the opinion of the Fireside.
See, as part of their publicity campaign, they're saying, right, we're going to do a publicity campaign on 72 hours or whatever duration. Right, there's going to be, like Scottish Water, if there's any of the water companies, you've got a disaster and you have no water, you turn up to a collection point and they give you water, right? You could do it with bug out bags or 72-hour packs, right? They could do it.
Yeah. They could do it. We know they could do it. They just won't. And I don't know why. And I get the whole might cause panic thing, but Jesus, if you've not paid attention to the news and you've not already got that slight bit of panic at this stage as a non-prepper, then you know, it's not going to make a difference. Angel A, where did you get the crossbows from? I'm worried I'll get a visit if I buy online. Not at all. Fully legal in the UK. Just follow the laws of whatever country you're in and you'll be perfectly covered. And sign up with an archery club and go and practice and do stuff like that. And if you enjoy target sports, it's perfectly legal to own. So there you go. Don't worry about that one. Just closed more than one off. Don't use the prepper shop at the moment. I think they're having problems getting supplies out. I've heard this. I've seen some terrible reviews recently. I don't know what's going on there, unfortunately. Gap in the market, Brian. Do you want to start prepper shop number 2?
I genuinely thought about it the tail end of last year. I'd priced a company in China that would make me the bags and put a little Scottish prepper Velcro patch on it for me. It would have worked out, price shipped to the UK, about 29 quid a unit, 26, 29, depending how many I bought. And then, because I've seen the same packs you've looked at, they're ripping people off.
But they've sold.
Yeah, you could have sold them for about 50, 60 quid, and that would have covered a little bit of profit and your storage. See, to be honest, for the amount of money and profit involved in it, mate, I just need to work a Saturday or a Sunday. It's no worth my time. I don't mean that to sound that. It's just no worth it.
No. I get it. I was talking more, big scale. The new Canadian preparedness.com for the UK.
See, even to get in at that price point, no, you'd be sinking $6,000 into it. You're basically buying a shipping container.
I'd love to see Lee put some together as pre-made ones. Maybe pitch it to him. Rift Security said, could the UKPN create a QR code? Are we talking about instructions or guides? Or if you're talking about guides and stuff, there's stuff in the making already. So I'll let you know. But yeah, send me a message. Snapdragon, have the leaflets on the tills at supermarkets, posters, back of public loo doors. There you go. Yeah, I'll tell you what. all you need is them little squares on the posters at the Wetherspoons urinal, and most blokes in the UK will have seen it at some point. You know, I know
after
more.
Walking down 60 stairs.
I know more about erectile dysfunction than my doctor because of Wetherspoons. I'm telling you.
I've heard that. It's just because you're getting on a bit, mate. There's a tablet, apparently.
Is there? All right. Okay. Wonderful. Use the Russian assets to fund it, says Rift Security. Well, they're already talking about dipping into that, aren't they? So why not indeed? Would it cause panic? I think ridicule and apathy is far more likely. That's the thing, right? Because that's what we get as preppers. The ridicule side of things, and the people like, yeah, it'll never happen to us. That's the hardest thing to combat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Again, we've all done it. You'll get the piss ripped out of you, or try to, from a colleague, or family, or friends. But see if you actually sit for 5-10 minutes and talk to them, you can actually see the fuel starting to churn. Now, it might not gain any traction. They might not actually spend a few quid on doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
But you can certainly see them thinking about it.
Yeah. Have you had that conversation with anyone, Barry, and they've looked at you like the crazy man?
Yeah, a few colleagues at work, but as Brian said, once you actually sort of get into the conversation, you start getting questions asked back at you, and if you give them the right answers, it's like watching the light bulb come on. You know,
so you just need to bait the hook right then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Good stuff. Maybe Miss Worm coming on the Preppers Fireside for an episode would help persuade a lot of people. What do you guys reckon?
I think she should.
Yeah.
Should have been on it a long time ago. Absolutely.
Give us a thumbs up in the chat if you want Miss Worm to come on one of the Fireside chats and get the female perspective. Let us know. Us as Brits roll over and get shafted every time. That's what makes us British, I think. Yeah.
You talking about you, Mike?
He's been here 2 minutes. And he's already on the let's diss Mike every episode wagon.
It's character building.
The Star of Shadow Directive pamphlet will sit next to my Protect and Survive pamphlet so I can send it to Charlie Says, who was serving the political prison sentence straight away. Thank you, Amphia. Thank you. Yes, go see Lee at the Bug Out in Wales. Much more reliable, 100%, much better shop, and someone you can genuinely talk to about your own personal needs, and he'll give you good advice. Miss Worms linked it. Superb. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of the chat, guys, so we can round it all up. Look at this, Miss Worm. Look at the peer pressure coming in here in droves. Loads of thumbs up. Well, Bernard, join us. Look at this. There's no comments left. It's all thumbs up.
Do you know what's even more disturbing? We don't get that amount of thumbs up or popularity.
I know.
I think it's the voice. That's what it is.
This is the making of your channel, Miss One. This is the making of your channel. Buy my book and I will. There you go.
We've already bought it. You need to come on.
I've bought it. I've not read it.
Yeah.
Only because I've not had time. But yeah, post your link to your book on there as well. Look at all these thumbs up are still coming in. All right, guys. Easy. We're all feeling a bit, looking forward to meeting you guys at the Scottish meet. Yeah, definitely. Viking is going to be hopefully a good one. Some voice Bernard's got. Right. Before we end, don't forget about the incoming merch, which is the Scottish Prepper doll, the Big Bazza doll, and the Urban Prepper doll. I'm going to find a 3D printer and we're going to make this happen.
God.
Brian, hold you to that.
You're going to need a lot of filament for mine then, aren't you?
Why do you think I'm charging 100 quid? Mine and Barry's only cost 20 to make. The rest is going into Brian's.
I eat a lot of pies.
Speaking of what you do, Brian, tell us all about Scottish Prepper 73 and why people need to go over and subscribe to your channel.
They don't have to, but it would be really nice, and I'd appreciate the support. I try and promote civil resilience. I genuinely believe that the power grid's on its last legs. It's a hodgepodge of crap, and you can look and do your own research. I tend to do a lot of things power related. I have been heavily invested in doing a workshop build for the last couple of weeks. Once I'm finished, I'll put that build video up. I've got food videos still to do, power bank videos still to do. I just don't have a lot of time, but I'll be back more active.
Yeah. And Barry, you can do this because you've got plans. So please tell us what's in store for people that go and pre-subscribe to Browncoat Prepper UK. What content can they expect?
Okay. So basically, content for the beginner prepper, for the novice. So basically putting together simple bug out bags, how to tailor them for yourselves, other things like that. As I say, it's a work in progress. Please bear with me. And yeah, I think the more times I appear sort of on here or chat to you guys and follow other channels, it'll give me more ideas for more content. So it's going to be interesting.
Watch this space and watch her journey from the very beginning. So make sure you go and subscribe to both these guys. If you do nothing else, that's really appreciated because they do give up their time to come and chat with me today. Thank you everyone in the chat as well for joining in. Chris quickly said 82 quickly said, when's the Scottish meet? It is the end of June. It is sold out though, Chris, completely sold out. No more spaces, I'm afraid. We are looking at other venues and other places. If you go and look for Midland Survival on Facebook, you'll find a Facebook group, and there is several meets advertised in there, which different people have organized. So if you're missing out on a meet, make sure you go and check that out. I'll go to Viking Mitch's channel, which was linked earlier, and he'll explain it on there as well. And Lancelot said, I got my Stuck Farmer t-shirt yesterday. I'm glad you did. Anyone who has ordered any t-shirts, I will tell you, I had an email off them saying there's delays with the state of the world. So I apologize if things take longer than usual. It is the way it is. You will get them though. Nice brown coat hanging up behind him. Can you stay over for a few days after? Yes, we've got the exclusive booking for that weekend. It's only us, but after that, if they've got slots, then you can book directly with the campsite for them days. I think it's like £15 a day or maybe 20. I can't remember, but yeah. Cool.
Consider
right.
It's his first outing. It's been heavily subscribed, Mike.
What's that?
The Scottish Prepper. It's been a big success.
It has, and it's a good. Let's not say it's a big success until we've done it. It could be a complete deluge of rain and failed prepping.
Probably, but it'll still be a laugh.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting. Yeah,
it's what all the extras that these meets give you, like leafing the bug out, being there and stuff like that, and setting up a stall and what have you, are all bonuses. Any demos are all bonuses. The main goal of any of these meets, whether it's us, whether it's the Midlands group, whether it's anyone like that, is networking, because it's what we lack in the prepping community. And today I did our first little meet we have separate like areas for our network, and 5 or 6 of us met up today and just had a chat, first time meeting everyone, and it was great. And it's really good insights into other people's prepping, and it helps you a lot. Thanks for all the great videos, help and banter on Discord, says Paul C. There we go. Thank you, Paul. Right. Mike, as long as you keep your drinks away from electrics, fire extinguishers. There's lots of people happening today.
I think people are hinting you've got a run of bad luck, mate. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Right, for anyone that doesn't know, so yesterday during Shadow Swede's live stream, this can of Coke met my Corsair gaming keyboard. and killed that. So just trying to get the link to these two was a chore today. And then today, Mrs. Urban Prepper had a blowout, and the wheel wouldn't come off because the last garage decided not to give her back a locking wheel nut. Blah, 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 blah. End of the story is Mike got done over Greek style with no Vaseline. That's all I'm going to say.
None of that shit would have happened if you drank Pepsi Max. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Whatever. Do not talk.
It's true.
Listen,
it's true.
The Fireside's ended, guys. Feel free to go. We're just going to talk shit for a minute.
Coffee fixes everything.
Coffee fixes it. I'll go with that one.
Coffee fixes everything.
So, Paul, your £10 is much appreciated. Is going to go towards some sort of reimbursement for my hell of a week so far. If it was Pepsi, it would have burnt through the floor like alien blood. There we go. Thank you, Polonium. Thank you,
Miss Bourne. Why wasn't that blocked? That comment? That's slanderous. People have been kicked for the chat for a lot less.
Right, we've done the everything, so we're supposed to be saying the goodbyes. So Brian, sign out, say goodbye.
Goodbye, folks. Good to see you all as always. Take care.
Barry, would you like to say goodbye to the millions of viewers?
Yeah, thanks very much for having me, and thank you very much for everybody that's taken the time out to appear in the chat, leave comments, etc. And thank you very much for Mike for hosting.
Thank you. And from me, don't forget to smash like on your way out. It really does help get the word out there. And that's what this is all about. It's about getting this message to the people that need to hear it, not just you guys that are already prepared. So be positive, spread the word of prepping as much as you can. OPSEC. And I'll see you all in another video really soon. Goodbye.
Round the fire, warm and bright, stocked up food for the night. Got our plans set in gold for the days when it's cold. Tools and gear stacked up high in the cabin we reside, listening to the winds howl, prepping for the morning's prowl. At the Prepper's fireside we stay, ready for that fateful day. Stories shared and hearts alight, round the fire every night. Water stored in jugs and tins, bunkered down through thick and thin. Maps and routes all drawn and laid, preppers live unafraid. At the Prepper's fireside we stay, ready for that fateful day. Stories shared and